So Foreign Minister Cho Hyun is in Canada for the G7 foreign ministers meeting and met with his American counterpart, Marco Rubio. For more on this, we're joined today by Matthew David Jenkins, Associate Professor at the Department of Political Science at Gyeongsang National University. Professor Jenkins, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So eyes are now on whether the foreign ministers can find a breakthrough on the joint fact sheet between Seoul and Washington. And this is taking longer than expected to finalize. How do you think this issue will play out?
Yeah, so I think the broader context here is the transfer of operational control of the U.S. forces in South Korea. And so that is sort of lurking in the background as a bigger sort of question. But I think really there's more agreement on security issues. I think the bigger problem here is going to be trade, right? As we left APEC last, the United States took away a very different perception of what happened. The U.S. Announced that it was, that Korea's economy was essentially completely open, 100% open, and that is not what the Korean perception was. And so I think that is a pretty big gap that they're going to have to narrow. So they're going to have to find some agreement on that. There are also things related to tariffs. Korea would like to, address the tariff issue with the United States, and in terms of reducing those tariffs, the United States on its part wants to continue to ramp up pressure on China to increase export controls in order to target China. And so I think those are the more fundamental issues that are going to drag out this agreement. I wouldn't really expect a giant breakthrough in this short time. It's only a few days that they have to talk about this, and amongst a variety of other issues. So I would expect them to come out with some sort of just an announcement of continued progress and shared cooperation or something like this.
I see, and they still haven't found common ground on security issues as well, especially where to build a nuclear-powered submarine. And Korean officials are now questioning, the feasibility of building one at a shipyard in Philadelphia. Is it actually unrealistic to build one in the United States?
So there's not only is there a problem building the Korean ships, there's also a problem building American ships. There's a backlog currently on American vessels. So it seems pretty unlikely for that to happen anytime soon. So the main issue is of course, for the U.S., President Trump wants to make a big show of manufacturing coming back to America. For the Korean part, they want to show progress in terms of developing their military capabilities and having a nuclear submarine that can go long distances and without being need for refueling. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. The main issue, is of course, where are you actually going to assemble the ship? So Korea is under the impression that it's possible to perhaps assemble the hull, assemble the main structure of the ship in Korea, and then have the U.S. supply the nuclear reactor. So that is, of course, not good optics for the United States. It has to have something built in the United States. And there's at least a year backlog, as I said earlier, of United States ships. So that also seems unlikely. So I think probably we really won't know, I think, until the next security consultative meeting, which should come next year, possibly in March, around there. And maybe we'll get a better idea of where it's actually feasible to build a ship. My guess, this is just a guess, is that probably it'll be partly constructed in Korea and then assembled in the United States. That would give the United States the ability to say, hey, look, we built something here, our manufacturing is still alive. We're still able to make things. So that would be my guess.
See, and as for North Korea, they're preparing for another military parade, possibly to mark the 9th Party Congress in January next year. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so it's pretty typical in North Korea. I mean, they have parades during the Congress. They just had a parade a month ago. It's a opportunity for them to display their military capabilities if there's any new weaponry that they've developed, and to just boost support for their country. And so I think it's pretty typical. I wouldn't think it's out of the ordinary. I wouldn't read it as a response to the Korea's attempt to develop a nuclear submarine. So it's just standard practice for North Korea. That's my read on that.
All right, and South Korea maintained its support for a United Nations resolution condemning North Korea's human rights violations yesterday. And this continues South Korea's stance from the previous conservative Yoon Suk-yeol administration. What's your assessment of this move?
Yeah, so it did continue in one sense, but in another sense, President Lee has broken with the previous administration. Recall that he shut off the propaganda loudspeakers, right, that were blasting propaganda across the border. So that was a show of partly, a show of conciliation. So I think that this is, yes, you're correct. I think it's more of a continuation of focusing of sort of a pragmatic approach to North Korea. On the one hand, developing, continuing to advance South Korea's military capabilities. On the other hand, making small diplomatic gestures of conciliation in order to make room for the possibility of talks, right, of diplomatic talks in the future, which some people suspect will happen next year. That's unclear. But certainly it does show some continuity, and it's a significant a sign of continuity in Korea's foreign policy towards North Korea, in the sense that we're going to take a hard stance on human rights and make sure that make it clear that this is the reason why we are uncomfortable with your regime, because of the way you treat people, and rather than just as the old style Cold War attitude, right, of confrontation. So I think this is a positive sign, and it's a good pragmatic approach that I think will be helpful to South Korea in the long run.
I see. All right, Professor Jenkins, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.